This episode of the New Medical Nomads podcast is brought to you by Nomadicare. Now, personally, I love Nomadicare. I've used Nomadicare, and I recommend the company to all new travelers. What Nomadicare does is it takes the fear out of getting set up with a bad recruiter, which is the biggest fear that you have jumping into this journey. So they sit down, they interview recruiters, they vet them, get them on a list, and then provide them to you as a free service, as a free recruiter matchmaking service in order to get you started on your journey. Now, usually you only get 2 recruiters going through Nomadicare, but being a listener of the show, you can get 3. So this is how it's going to work. You go to nomadicare.com/Dylan. You will get set up with 3 recruiters to be on your dream team, as well as a guide to get you started on your journey.
Hey Nomads, this is Dylan coming at you from Silicon Valley. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the New Medical Nomads podcast. I am your host, Dr. Dylan Callier, and today we are talking about out-of-country vaccinations. So many of you may know that my why and my main reason of travel is to have the flexibility to travel the world and have the ability to take time off when I would like to and go across and really travel and experience this world. Also, on top of that, get to travel within the United States itself, which there's so many great places, but ultimately to go to other countries. And this has been a 4-year plan. When I originally went outside the States, studied at Oxford for a summer, went to England, went to Scotland, loved it, really sparked my travel bug. And I was planning on trying to get out of the States ever since. And I didn't decide to where I was going until about a year ago, once I really started getting into this travel PT thing. And my first stop is going to be Thailand and Bali. And so I'm going to go and live 1 month in Bali, 1 month in Thailand. And I'm going through that process now. And so just to give you a heads up, I went and bought my plane tickets, and from the West Coast to Thailand, it was about $440 for a one-way. So pretty cheap coming from the West Coast. I hear from the East Coast it is more expensive, but today is primarily about the vaccinations because I went through that process. When you go overseas, if you're going to a third world, second world country, they definitely want you to have vaccinations in any country really to travel outside the States. So although this is going to be primarily aimed at Thailand, where a lot of the travelers end up going because it's the reason I chose it first was because it's the cheapest on my list. So primarily going to be about Thailand, but I'm also going to give the preface on how I decided and where to go to receive vaccinations in this consultation. So before I really knew anything about vaccinations or getting consulting, I was told that there are travel nursing stations. So not travel nurses in the sense of our profession as medical travelers, but travel nurses as in nurses that have information, nurse practitioners, MDs that have information about out-of-country vaccination needs. And so they have their own database. You walk in, they do all the work for you. You don't have to worry. You don't have to do the scavenger hunt online. And they tell you everything that you need. And so I Google searched travel nurse vaccinations and ended up finding a place near me in San Mateo, California. It was called Passport Health. I really enjoyed the services there, and I'm going to give a shout out to my nurse, and I'm hoping I get her last name right, but Jessica Khosravi was my nurse for the vaccinations. And so that was at Passport Health in San Mateo. You schedule an appointment, usually pretty busy, hard to get in, but schedule an appointment, walk in, and they take care of all the information that you need to know about where you're going. And so I actually have a list here of everything we went over. So I'm just going to go down the list of everything. And I also got a bag of goodies for Thailand specifically that I'll be going over as well. So those who are interested in Thailand and Bali will definitely get some benefit out of this. And then if you were looking for vaccinations for another country, highly recommend Passport Health, or just Google search travel nurse vaccines near you. and something should pop up near you to where you can get all the information that you need and you don't have to worry about it. The consultation ended up costing about $50, which was very worth it for my time. And then we went through all the medications. So again, this is not medical advice. This is just what I'm currently doing and what was recommended to me. This is information for you to think about in order to go to the appropriate person to ask these questions. So moving down, the biggest question I had was malaria pills. I had heard some pretty nasty things about the side effects, and I was basically suggested that the malaria pills, you have to take them, and you have to take them the entire time that you're there. There are some that have more side effects, mostly nightmares is what I've heard, and some that have hardly any side effects. And so I ended up neglecting to take the malaria medication because I'm going to be in an area that's very low risk. Now, if I do end up going into an area that is high risk, more on the borders of Thailand, more in the very rural areas, there are hospitals there, there are places you can go for those medications. However, Jessica warned me that sometimes, especially the vaccinations there, they might be diluted. They might, their standards there aren't quite to the degree of the United States. And so she highly recommended not doing that. So that is the recommendation per her. However, they do have United States embassies over there. And my plan is to call them and see where the good places are to go. They should have a list. And so that is my plan if I need to start taking medications in addition to what I've gotten vaccinated for. The big one also was rabies. I've never had a rabies vaccination. It was quite pricey, and it's a series of 3. And so I also neglected to take it through the suggestions of who I was working with. And if I am bitten by a monkey or a raccoon or a squirrel or whatever, I will also call the United States Embassy and ask them for a list of recommended hospitals that I can go to and be more reactive in that instance rather than proactive. The next thing was risk of dengue fever and Zika virus. So those things carried around by mosquitoes. I was actually recommended to get this spray. It's basically insect repellent. If you go to REI, you can I can actually smell it's pretty, kind of smells like gasoline. You can actually get this at REI or other places as well, outdoor places, but it's basically a DEET trigger spray. And you can buy clothing with DEET on them. They're usually like $50 for a really terrible looking t-shirt. But if you take this and spray it on your clothes, it is highly potent, so you don't want kids around, you don't want dogs around. You can spray this on your clothes and it'll be good for 8 washes. So it won't last my entire time overseas, but it will last a good majority of it. And that way, I am less likely to get bitten by a mosquito. And I am one of those persons that if I go out around the campfire, family's outside, I am going to be eaten alive by mosquitoes and nobody else will be touched. So I am very cautious about everything related to mosquitoes. I'm going to be doing that. And then there's also just DEET spray that I plan on getting from REI as well. I was told anything around 25 to 30% is good. Anything higher than 30% is going to be really potent and not very good for the skin. Again, that's just what I've been told by a medical professional. Take that for what it's worth and go ask the appropriate persons. Speaking of things that I am going to try and avoid, the Ultrathon insect repellent is also what I bought. Go over here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can actually see what it looks like. This is also a DEET lotion. And then also on top of that, I am very pale. I am a very, very white person. I am very likely to get sunburned, so I'm going to be lathering on sunscreen as much as I can. I've been told that in Thailand, it's one of the only things that's actually really expensive is sunscreen. So I'm going to be buying as much as I can take along the trip and take it with me. So I will make room in my suitcase for that. I don't plan on packing a lot. I'm actually going to probably just pack very minimal clothes, maybe for a week. I'm going to try and travel with carry-ons only, just because that's how I want to travel. Back to some vaccinations. Pretty much if you're going to an area where sanitation is questionable, you're going to need all the hepatitis A and hepatitis B vaccines. If you were a healthcare worker, most likely you already have those. Some people don't have the Hep A. I did have to get that a while back for clinicals. So most likely you have both if you're already a medical health professional. These should also be into a national database where you can look all these up. Now, I hear California is a little bit different, as in they can't really access it, or they have their own like state thing going on. So I'll have to update it myself and send it back to my primary care. But those are some vaccines that I had already taken. The tetanus shot I've already taken, again, for traveling out and being a home health therapist. They recommended it. I did get my flu vaccine for the year, and they highly recommend the flu vaccine before you travel over countries as well. And so I got that already, being a healthcare practitioner. Then there's also like pneumonia shots, TB shots, varicella vaccinations, all of that, which I've received before. And then I just had to get a measles, mumps, and rubella booster not too long ago as well, for this current contract that I'm on. In the States, I'm pretty sure that you have to get a polio vaccine. That's something I already had as well. It's also something that kind of runs in my family, so I for sure had that going into it. The one that I haven't gotten yet, and the only reason why is because it was scheduling, it didn't work out. And so this one is called Japanese encephalitis. The risk is low, but the nurse that I was talking to, she said that the risk is really underreported, and almost everybody's vaccinated within the country. So she highly recommended it. And looking at it, this is kind of my decision process for my health. Number one, my health comes first. Doesn't matter the cost. But for this one, it was a series of 2 shots. And with the first shot, it's like a 30 to 40% decrease in risk. The second shot's like 90 to 99% decrease in risk. And then you end up having to get a booster later. Now, the series for that shot, it's going to be like $424 per shot. It's going to be about $850 for the series, but I can get them both, and then I don't have to ever worry about it again until the booster. And then after the booster, I will be immune, or I guess immune isn't the correct word, but mostly immune for the rest of my life. And so if I have to lay down some cash in order for that, I'm probably going to go back to Indonesia at some point in my life. I think that's highly worth it. And so the cost to benefit ratio for me would be very high for that one. So I will be getting that one, although I haven't got it yet. Cholera, if you are familiar with epidemiology, cholera is the condition where you get dehydrated very, very fast. It's a very rapid, fatal disease where you get dehydrated within 24 hours and pass away. So the name of the game for cholera is basically prevention. Wash your fruits and vegetables. If you're in Thailand, they're going to be washing the fruits and vegetables with the water there. The water is very contaminated, so you don't want to drink anything that's not filtered or out of a water bottle. So any of the vegetables that you get is likely going to be washed with that contaminated water. And so they recommend staying away from that, or washing it yourself, or just eating fried food or street food or something like that where it's all cooked. I'm pretty much not getting cholera, but I'm pretty much guaranteeing myself that something's going to happen on this trip. It's probably going to be a stomach bug, something called traveler's diarrhea, which like 50% of people get. I am expecting something to happen, and I'm trying to be as preventative as possible doing that. And so for the kind of stomach bug, if you're familiar with like persons with lactose intolerance, they can take this thing called Lactaid, and it's like the greatest thing ever, and they can eat they could take this pill and then eat ice cream and, ice cream cakes and dairy and cheese and all the stuff that they usually wouldn't be able to eat. And there's actually something out there for the stomach bug, traveler's diarrhea. And so what I bought was Travalan. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. This is basically like a Lactaid, but for what I was told is questionable meals. You take this and then it helps avoid any type of risk, or not any type of risk, but it helps greatly avoid the stomach bug. And so I basically bought enough that I can have one questionable meal a day. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and prevent as much as I can, anticipating that this is going to be an issue for me. 50% is pretty good odds. And so that's my plan going into it. Also, things you can do before your trip to Thailand is take probiotics. You can do it through yogurt. I ended up getting pills just so I can take it on the road with me and keep my gut health up. That way, again, trying to be as preventative as possible. The absolute must, no question about it, vaccine to get is the typhoid fever vaccine. You can either do it through a shot or you can do a live oral vaccine. That is a 4-tablet sequence over I think it was 7 days, but it has to be refrigerated. I ended up doing the shot because I had a full patient caseload that day. And luckily I decided to do that because I was going to do the live oral vaccine because you don't have to get a booster for 5 years after the oral. You have to get a booster after 2 years for the shot. And I'm pretty sure that was the one that made me super sore. But the booster, the live oral vaccine, it has to be refrigerated, and I didn't get back home till 7 p.m. So luckily I decided to go ahead and elect for the shot, and that way I could have avoided that. Then there's just a bunch of more information that she gave me on yellow fever and how little risk it is in Thailand. A lot of other preventative things to do, what to do in case of illnesses, and then the U.S. Embassy phone number and how to get a hold of them, where they're at, and things like that. So I was really impressed and really enjoyed the consultation that I got rather than just searching it on my own. I definitely think it was worth the $50 that I paid for it. It might be cheaper elsewhere. I know California is pretty expensive, but I thought it was well worth what I paid. And then also they have small little kits that you can buy. So Pedialyte is in here. Some people swear by Z-Packs. I haven't got any yet. I'm not sure if I would. They also come with a antibiotic here in the traveler kit. And this is something you can put together yourself, but they had it there for super cheap. So I just went ahead and got it. But azithromycin is the antibiotic that comes with it. It's an over-the-counter medication, so you don't need a prescription for it. As far as I know, depends on where you're at. Again, this isn't medical advice, but it is an antibiotic that you can take once you get the stomach bug. And so that's pretty much it. I definitely enjoyed going to Passport Health in order to have all this taken care of me. I'm not anxious at all. I don't feel like I missed anything. It was just really good information and somebody who knows the stuff and works with it every day and able to give their input on, should you take this, should you not? Here is what I would tell my sister to do, type of thing. And so I was highly impressed with it. But again, if you're listening to this, you don't have an idea to go to Thailand, Googling travel nurse vaccines or Passport Health for wherever you're about to go. And then also being really on the preventative side of things, whether it be for mosquitoes, with the DEET sprays, with sunscreen, with probiotics, with Travalan, the medication that allows you to eat a questionable meal once per day. But I hope this was informational for you guys, especially for those about to travel to Thailand. Who knows, maybe we'll be there around the same time. Let me know. Again, if you are listening to this, any thumbs up, likes, hearts, comments, reviews online, the more engagement we get, the more people will see this and the more people we can help, which is ultimately the goal of the podcast. So thank you so much, guys. The official launches of these episodes are on New Medical Nomads Facebook page. If you have any question on this, reach out to me in the New Medical Nomads Facebook group. And then we are on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, basically anywhere you are, you can find us. Just search New Medical Nomads and you can find me there. But yeah, guys, Thanks so much. I'm super excited for my trip coming up. Oh my gosh, so excited. I would squeal right now, but I'm pretty sure that would bust out your eardrums in the car. So keep updates. Again, this is going to be what I do, keeping track of my story, my travel adventures as well. But reach out. Definitely love to interact with you guys. Let me know your own travel stories. If you want to be on the show, reach out. Definitely love to have you. Anybody with a positive story I'm looking for. But nomads, you guys have safe travels.